So every year, tens of thousands of Americans are charged with crimes after an eyewitness comes forward and IDs them. But what does the science say? Well, 1/3 of the time, when an eyewitness picks someone out of an actual lineup, they pick out an innocent filler. 1/3 of the time. Out of the first 250 DNA exonerations in the United States, 190 of them involved mistaken eyewitness identifications. So what's behind these problems? Well, first of all, our memories don't work like cameras, as we assume they do. Simply seeing something does not commit it to memory. And there are many things that can negatively impact how well we encode and recall a memory. White guy trying to remember a black suspect versus trying to remember a white suspect. In studies, I'm 50% less likely to be able to do a correct identification. Light. Seeing someone at midday versus dusk has a big effect on how well you will be able to remember and make an identification. Whether you're physically exerting yourself at that moment of encoding the memory. Well, that's often the case when you're suffering a crime. Now, I think the bigger problem with eyewitness identifications has to do with factors in control of the police. Memory is easily lost and easily corrupted, and research suggests that subtle suggestions by the person administering the lineup, little things, like when the witness starts to pick out one of those innocent fillers, saying to the person, "Ma'am, we have plenty of time, take your time." That just seems like a prudent thing to tell a person. After all, a mistaken identification can derail a whole case that's already being worked by detectives. Isn't that a good thing for an officer to say? Well, the research suggests no. That can lead to misidentifications. Same thing with just saying after the person has picked someone out, "Good job, ma'am. You got the suspect we brought in." How does that change things? Well, subsequently, those individuals who have been given that feedback feel much more confident. They remember better after the fact, just by that little subtle push. One of the biggest problems with eyewitness identifications is that we tend not to do just one. So in this particular case, they brought the victim in initially to look at photographs. She looked actually at John Jerome White. Then they brought her back to do the in-person lineup. She picked him out again. Then they brought her into court, where she said, "Yes, I see the man who attacked me in the court today." So from the jury's perspective, well, 1, 2, 3, you're out. Clearly, she remembers very well. But what about those second two identifications? Was she remembering the person who attacked her? Or was she remembering the photograph she saw a week earlier? When she was brought into court, was she remembering the man who attacked her? Or was she remembering the person that she'd now seen twice before? We know from research that simply seeing someone's picture on Facebook can make it more likely that we will pick them out of an eyewitness identification lineup. What this means to me is that we need to handle eyewitness memory a lot more like we handle other trace evidence. Think about how careful we are with a blood sample, how careful we are to preserve it, how we carefully track the chain of custody. With memory, what do? We let people go out in the world, talk to other people, go back to the crime scene, go over the events many times in their own heads. What does that do? It corrupts the memory. We need to think about ways that we can treat all evidence with scientific care.